I want you to understand there are so many different grants out here, and also another grant that most veterans do not speak about, because when we're talking about these disabilities are, how should I say, for the most part, extreme. That kind of outline of what are the specific grants that are going to be tailored for the veteran in need. So now we want to make sure that you guys are understanding that these housing grants are out here if provided for veterans. Hey veterans, welcome back to the Veterans Learning Center. We hope you enjoyed all the past topics, and now we're going to start really unraveling some of the more specific topics I think that's going to be very beneficial for some of our veterans who, you know, do suffer from an extreme injury, but also some of the veterans who are interested in the housing aspect of things, which again, we have spoken about the VA-backed loans, right? VA home loan entitlements, which again, now we can also focus on how we can make the grants and benefits work for you, okay? So in this aspect, what we're going to talk about veterans who are eligible, right, for specific housing grants, okay? And other programs for homeless veterans as well, right? Because again, I really want to make sure that this course focuses on not only only receiving information for the veteran community, but also serving the veteran community. Just as though we serve, we want to give you guys information to serve as well. So with that being said, if you're a veteran who is dealing with the unique challenges of securing, housing that is going to be tailored to support your needs of transition to a stable environment. And what do I mean by that? If you're a veteran who is dealing with the loss of use of limbs, the again numbness in the foot where you can no longer utilize, or blindness, or just so many different injuries or ailments that is needing you to tailor your entire life. So if you're gonna need a little bit more comprehensive help, well, there's programs out there if again you're a disabled veteran. So we kind of spoke about this here in the benefit portion of things. So again, that was a real in-depth overview, okay, that kind of outline of what are the specific grants that are going to be tailored for the veteran in need. So now we want to make sure that you guys are understanding that these housing grants are out here if provided for veterans, but now if you are a landlord or a veteran who owns a home, who is renting things out and have the availability to serve the veteran community, these specific grants and also programs is going to be able to support, okay, more or less in relation to the homeless program. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the housing grants for disabled veterans. So there are specific housing grants that are out here for disabled veterans who are dealing with severe injuries. But now this is a government funded or Congress funded grant. Okay. And now this specific grant is a special housing adaptation grant. Okay. So a special housing adaptation grant, it pretty much offers assistance to a veteran who has specific disabilities that needs to adjust their home to adapt to their disability. If you're a veteran who is quadriplegic or needs a wheelchair or something of that nature, well, we understand that those are going to be specific needs for your home. So adding a wheelchair ramp to your home, that is probably a need that is going to be qualified. That's going to be qualifying, right? So that will fall into that home adaptation. And again, and that's an extreme case, right? When we're talking about quadriplegic, but again, there's other issues as well. Okay, we have veterans who have different severe burns that affects their limbs on a regular basis. So if it affects your limbs, and then again, when we're talking about your upper and lower extremities, right? If it affects these extremities, I want you to understand that you can also qualify as well. All right. But there's, so again, when you talk about the qualifying metrics, again, that is going to be more in depth in the benefit sector section, which again, you can be able to make sure that you do qualify. So, especially adapted housing grant, okay, again, referred to SAH, right? This grant is obviously pulling from the same pot of congressional monies that is delivered. This here is a little bit different from the adaptation grant. Typically for an adaptation grant, you already own a home. This one here is, again, this adapted housing grant is to provide funding for specific your service connected disabilities to buy, build, or remodel the home to accommodate these needs. Okay, so this is very similar but very different. Okay, the housing grant of adaptation, this is to change or modify your home to meet your needs. And the adapted housing is to buy, remodel, or build a home based accommodation of your needs. So it's just a little bit different, but very similar. But with that, I want you to understand that these monies are refurnished and refurbished every single year by Congress. So obviously, without applying for the benefits, and these are some of the benefits that veterans typically don't know about to apply for. Okay. And I don't want you to think that you may not qualify based upon, varying needs. So, and I want to give you an example, right? Most veterans, they may not feel as though that they are injured severely enough to qualify. However, there are injuries that can exacerbate other conditions, right? So if you are a veteran, let's say you're a veteran with diabetes. Now, being a veteran with diabetes, we understand that there are certain things that you must, um, you know, alter to accommodate your ailment. Okay, that disease of diabetes. Now, if your diabetes has exacerbated to other issues, such as causing blindness in both eyes, or lower, or again, causing a loss of use of your extremities, like your hands, because of coldness and numbness, and again, paralyzing your hands and lower extremities. Well, guess what? That actually qualifies you to be able to meet the grant because it was a stemming service-connected disabilities that cause other disabilities that have become service-connected. And now you apply for a grant, and now that you can be able to basically modify your home based upon those needs. Okay. But all in all, I want you to understand there are so many different grants out here. And also another grant that most veterans do not speak about, because when we're talking about these disabilities are, how should I say, for the most part, extreme, but they don't necessarily have to be extreme on how it is developed out. So you may qualify even if you don't think you do. We can be able to assist in relation to qualification because, again, that back pain, that foot pain, that temporary blindness, or that numbness in your hands, legs, and also the drop leg syndrome, that could be a qualifying metric. So again, we'll love to be able to satisfy those needs. But now, when you are dealing with the SHA and also SAH, special adapted housing and also special housing adaptation grants, sometimes you must be displaced for modification of your home. That displacement will also qualify you to be able to have a temporary residence. And now you're able to utilize that grant as well. So each grant can be kind of put upon another if selected to be able to use. So if you pretty much utilizing the special adapt housing grant for adaptations, okay, well, the SAH, well, now you've bought your home under basically those principles, but now disease have exacerbated to the point where you need further special adaptations. Well, now, again, now you've gotten that grant as well. But with that being said, you're displaced. So what do? Now you're able to receive the temporary residential the adaptation housing grant as well. So we want to understand that it's all about strategy and how you're being able to place the eligibility criteria in the position on how you're going to be able to satisfy the eligibility needs so you can. So now let's go ahead and talk about eligibility. Like I said before, the eligibility is going to be more in depth in our benefit portion of things. This is more or less wanting to just touch on, refresh, and provide you an understanding for in a housing aspect, right? So with that, for an SAH grant, obviously the veteran must have a permanent and total service-connected disability, such as loss of use of both lower extremities, okay, blindness, blindness in both eyes, and severe burns. Again, the list currently is a little bit further than that as well. But like I said, please go revisit the benefit sector where we talk about that a little bit more in depth. All right, but that's pretty much the qualifying metrics for that nature. All right. Also, the FHA grant. This grant is designed for veterans with a loss of use of both hands, and also could be severe respiratory conditions or similar conditions of that type. If you are a veteran that is living with COPD, severe asthma, sleep apnea, and you have a home that is a 3-story home, do you think you qualify? Well, yes, that is a possible qualification, but again, you have to be selected and you have to be able to have that offer grant. It is then also, it's only, again, that is only going to be used based upon the application. So if you never apply, you never get the grant. So never count yourself out. Let the VA tell you no, and not yourself. It was one of my mentors told me this, and I thought it was one of the greatest things in the world, and it changed my outlook on life. Well, he told me to take a step back. If you are providing a product for any organization or your cell phone business, a lot of times what happens is that us as people tend to shop with our own pockets. Never put yourself in a position where you're shopping with your own pockets in terms of your benefits. Let the decision maker tell you no rather than you. Okay? Well, now moving on, obviously the TRA, that again, temporary residential housing grant, you must qualify for either or, because again, you will be displaced 9 times out of 10 when those adaptations will be applied to your house. And that is, again, going to be applied to you as well, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the amount so that you will be able to be granted. How much do you receive? Let's talk about the money. Again, the compensation that everyone loves to talk about. And with the compensation, I want you to understand that it is going towards your home. It's not nothing. This is nothing that's going into your pocket or anything of that nature. This is going towards your home. Okay, so when we're talking about the SAH grant, okay, the specifically adapted housing grant, It provides $117,000. Again, this is fiscal year 2024. So again, if someone is in 2026 watching this, could be increased. So I would go ahead and check the amount provided for that year. Okay. But with that, again, $117,000 for the fiscal year of 2024. Can this be used more than once? Yes. This grant can be used up to 6 times. 6 times. But it's not to exceed the maximum grant limit. What does that mean? So $117,000, that is a grant limit. That is in fiscal year 2024. So I can utilize this grant up to 6 times. So if it costs me $20,000 to modify my stairs, if it costs me $20,000 to modify my porch, if it costs me $20,000 to modify my backyard, if it costs me $20,000 to modify my kitchen, I can continue to use it up to 6 times, but not to exceed the maximum grant level. Okay. And that is SAH. Now let's talk about, again, especially housing adaptations, okay, which it offers, again, $23,444 in the fiscal year 2024. So it is the same usage limit. So again, you still have that 6 times, but with that, that is the total grant. Okay, and that's $23,444. All right. Now, when you are being displaced amongst that grant, the temporary residential housing or allowance, as they should say, again, that grant there, it allows $47,000 for the SAH grant. So that one there is pretty large because again, you have $47,000 if you are then displaced. And again, that is the specially adapted housing grant. Okay. Now, with obviously the SAH, which it is a lot less, right? With those adaptations only takes a certain amount of time. It's not going to take an elongated time period of 6 months or anything of that nature. Typically, it should be done within a month or two. So now that is then provided $8,400 for the SAH, okay? And that's in fiscal year 2024. It's a temporary temporary adaptation, okay? Now, the biggest thing is how do we apply? How do we apply? Well, we understand va.gov has been our crux, right? So same thing. We're going to go ahead and again search for special adapted housing, adaptation grant, so on and so forth. And that's when you'll be able to apply through va.gov. Okay. However, we also have the specific application of the VA form 26 TAC 4555. Okay. And now again, that is 26 TAC 4555. Okay, that form there, you're going to be able to mail that form, fax that form, and where we're mailing it, of course, we're mailing it to the Claims Intake Center. So again, you'll be able to send it to Wisconsin Janesville as every other claim goes to. It will be processed. They will be able to be in contact with you. Again, once it is mailed off after a 2-week time frame, please give the VA a call just to make sure that it's in receipt. But I always recommend faxing. Because again, it will take notice very similar to a submission through va.gov, where it will take heed as well. Okay. Now, it's a claim. It's a claim. So I want you guys to understand that though it is a claim, it could take some time to process. Okay. This is nothing where the process is going to be expedited. The process is going to be a smooth process. Typically, they do require medical documentation. They do require how again, feasibility studies and different things of that nature, but all of that stuff is provided by your construction team or again, contractor. A lot of this stuff is going to be provided by them, but the medical documentation on your limitations, that's also going to be provided by you. I always recommend that you submit that with your case file, because if you do not, now you're basing it upon your service-connected disability and their opinion if and when it is coming to effect, if you are approved. Recommendation, please always provide supporting documentation. And if again, any medical evidence or opinions are needed or anything of that nature, please contact us, because we will love to see again if we can be able to support. All right. So now with that, please make sure, give it about at least 60 to 90 days before we start contacting and see what it exactly is going. All right, so now let's all go ahead and consider, the actual adaptations. We talked about the monies, we talked about the application process, we talked about the terms and definitions of what these grants are. Now, what about the construction considerations? What about the design? Are you limited to what your house can exceed or it can take on? Or are you limited to your desires? Let's figure that out. So when we're talking about the SAH and the SAH and SHA, okay, adapted housing, and also again housing adaptation, there are guidelines. There are guidelines. Okay. You will be provided a handbook to ensure that these adaptations meet the specific standards and needs of the veteran, which is yourself. Okay. Again, you are allowed to provide input. You are allowed to make sure that design input and changes can be submitted, but everything will be based upon the feasibility studies that the contractor or construction worker are providing as well. So this is going to be in consideration of financials, design, medical need, and suitability for your property. Then at that point, the VA will conduct that approval to ensure everything is in place. So now with medical need, financial need, feasibility, actual housing and property suitability, and also the specific need for the veteran based upon the medical ailment, everything is taken into consideration before approving or denying your grant. All right. So be purposeful what your ask is. Right. So this program, it is a fantastic program. With it being a fantastic program, it is supporting our veterans who are dealing with specific needs that does not allow their current residents to appease. So with that, this purpose of this program is fantastic, because these severe disabilities, they are present. We do deal with them. It is something that is deliberating. But now, how is the community supporting or the government supporting? Well, the grant is one way that is support is going to be needed, or it's going to be provided. But I want you to understand that these funds are, it's a grant, right? So with it being a grant, qualifying metrics for the disabilities can be approved or denied a little bit more easier than a specific compensation disability claim. So be very intentional on what is provided, right? I also want to let you know that the funds that are dispersed, right, they're going to be used in several different ways. And let's talk about the The grant, well, both grants will apply, right? The adaptation and also any adaptation grants that would apply. But now with these grants, I want you to understand the funds are going to be mainly used to provide adaptations to the home. But now it can also be applied to the existing units to an adapted home based upon your disability as well. Let me say that again. The grant can be applied to pay off an existing adapted home mortgage balance as well, if qualified. Well, what does that mean? Well, we also understand that different homes are applied or adaptations are made. Handicap adaptations are made regularly based upon regulation in certain areas and also certain states. So if that adaptation is then applied to a home that you may live and you apply for this grant for your adaptation to be inserted or adaptation to be recognized based upon a severe disability, well, you are provided that grant. Well, guess what can happen? You then can utilize those funds to pay off your existing mortgage balance. Hey, I'm just trying to provide you guys value. I think that's a ton of value there. But again, I'm always here to answer questions. So I hope that was a information that you may have not known before. But if so, let's talk a little bit more. I think we can still uncover some more. All right. So now with that said as well, also now the housing adaptation, especially housing adaptation grant, that is the lower of amount of the two, right? That one there is very purposeful as well, because now you're just adding an adaptation to your home. You have already an existing home. So if you are purchasing that adaptation I've already made that modification to your home, you can still use the funds to pay off a mortgage balance as well. But ultimately, this grant here is to make your life easier. So please, if we understand that the amount is, again, $8,400 is not a huge amount to make modifications of home, right? So that grant can also be utilized to pay the mortgage balance off. But what I always recommend, make sure that your needs are met when you are utilizing that grant as well. So like we were talking about again, the SHA and the SAH, right? These two grants are really fabulous for those disabled veterans who are severely suffering from those disabilities. But now I also want to bring back up the TRA grant, right? This is a fantastic grant. So if you are temporarily displaced in housing with a friend, family, anything of that nature, they provide this grant so you can basically be able to pay for your time there, okay? Which is huge. But what I will say is that it is one, it is limited to a single use, right? Take that in consideration. It is limited to a single use, and it does not count against your 6-time use of the SAH grant. Special adapted housing, it does not, or especially housing adaptation. So obviously the SAH, that is the use of 6 times. So with that being said, I want you to understand that it does not count against that usage, but it is limited to single use. So when you use it, understand this is a one and done grant. So I want you guys to understand that this portion was definitely a foundational understanding about the grants that are allowed for veterans and veterans housing. Obviously, the intended purpose is to use these resources and maximize these resources. This entire community is here to maximize these resources. But sometimes the severely disabled veterans may not maximize the resources because not having the information. This is information. So now, with those disabled veterans, we want to make sure that we're putting them in the right direction, and these grants are available for them. Every single year, they're going to be available, but we need to apply. So make sure you make the action, take the first step, apply. Now, for veterans who are not only severely dealing with day-to-day issues, trying to, modify their way of living based upon their disabilities, but does not have the adaptations to do so. What we also want to talk about is that we want to talk about housing for veterans. Homeless veterans are something that is more common than we think. Okay. And I just want to take the time out to make sure you guys understand that what is the definition of a homeless veteran? Well, the definition of a homeless veteran may not be the definition that you may think. A homeless veteran under a tent on the streets, right? Yes, of course, that's a homeless veteran who are in an extreme condition. However, a homeless veteran may be a veteran who does not have a permanent residence, but who's working every single day to keep a roof over their head, to feed their family, or a veteran who is single and just trying to find a way in couch surfing with friends and family, or a veteran who goes to one shelter to another dealing with mental illness, but always goes back home to make sure that everyone is checked in with. You may not know that they deal with this. There's programs out there for them. And we want to make sure that we are connecting them to the programs that are going to be specifically for them. I want you to make sure before we begin to look at this program in two different mindsets. Where one, looking at this program is to serve our veteran community by providing education, not only to you, but also to the homeless veteran under any definition that was just mentioned. Also, we want you to look at this program as well in the lens of a home investor or a homeowner who could utilize this program to maximize their benefits. And what I mean their benefits, the benefit of housing. It would be a home loan, right? Which again, we kind of already touched on that before, on how you can actually utilize it more than once to be able to provide housing for the homeless veteran community. Those are the two perspectives I want you to look at this program. So this program is called HUD-VASH, right? Now, when we talk about the Housing Urban Development Agency, this HUD has been around for years. Typically we understand HUD to be more or less geared towards homelessness or underserved communities for veterans who, not veterans, I'm sorry, for the society who are displaced on a regular basis and need a little bit more stable housing. Okay. And with that being said, we want to make sure that you understand that this is an extension of that. Okay. I'm sure that a lot of veterans have heard of the program of Section 8. Well, this is an extension of that program for veterans. Believe it or not, you guys are in a great position because you're here in this course to know information. But now with being here in this course to know information, you're able to maximize your benefits, but now you're understanding that there are veterans that are much, much worse position. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're in this course, you're trying to get to the next level. And there's also veterans who have to who serve just like you did, who are in a worse position than when they were in the military. So let's support them. Now, with HUD-VASH, who actually qualifies for this? So this program is qualifying for homeless veterans or at risk of becoming homeless, which again, you must provide the information of stable housing or not stable housing. Okay. Typically, I want you to understand that HUD-VASH is going to be administered by the VA medical centers. However, there are other designated entities that can be able to provide these vouchers or service to make sure that these rental assistance programs are applied. So just like Section 8, you receive a voucher to be able to pay your rent. So it is a rental assistance program based upon the voucher that is given to you from the VA. So with that, your rent will be covered based upon your need of housing. So with this, when we're talking about the components of the actual HUD-VASH, the HUD-VASH components has typically a few of them. Okay, so we're going to talk about number one, right? The housing choice vouchers. The housing choice vouchers, okay, I want you to understand that is the most common, most popular, okay? And as I mentioned before, it is a voucher provided to be able to provide rental assistance of your residence. Okay, but you would need to find residents, right? You would need, as a veteran, you will then need to be able to find residents and qualify to live in that residential unit. Typically, they're privately owned homes that rent out to veterans, just as though they rent out to Section 8 as well. So as a homeless veteran, you have this opportunity to be able to take your voucher and live in home totally rent-free if you qualify. Now, as a veteran investor who owns multiple homes, you are able to take the voucher and pay your mortgage and support the veteran community all at the same time by trying to strive to end homelessness for the veteran community. There should be no reason why there is a veteran that is homeless on the streets who fought for our country. Be a part of the ones who are trying to eradicate that. So that is the housing choice voucher, okay? Now this voucher is gonna cover typically a portion of the rent. Obviously, you're gonna be, typically the veteran is gonna be responsible for the remaining balance. It's gonna be based upon the income that they have. 9 times out of 10, many veterans they have unstable work, right? So a lot of time the income is gonna be based upon an annual metric. So if you're below poverty level, 9 times out of 10, that voucher is going to cover the entire rent. Okay? Well, mainly, right? We have Section 8 that they typically cover the entire rent and you're only responsible for $50, right? So that's an aspect as well. But now I also want you to understand that also the component of the program of HUD-VASH has a component of case management services, okay? Now, what are these services? What do they do? Now, when we're talking about case management services, I want you to understand it is a collaborative effort to provide social services to the veteran community to get them back on their feet. This program is ultimately going to try to provide housing stability, right? So when we're talking about the case management services, there's a huge, again, there are a lot of local community services or organizations that are having the flexibility to serve the veteran community to provide these vouchers. But you need to do the research and find out who can do so. Well, guess what? You're in the course, so guess what? That research is already done for you. So you're going to receive, again, many community organizations that we have found for you. So you can just reach out to them and we provide them the information. And also, you can also reach out to your local housing authority if you have a home that you want to be able to put up for HUD-VASH. Right now, with that being said, again, these case management programs, organizations, they provide many social services, right? Rehabilitation, off of drug use, alcohol use, mental health services, medical services. So many of these organizations are going to be able to provide you with the needs that are going to require that veteran to get back on their feet. And it's all through HUD-VASH. Typically, when you go through HUD-VASH, you're going to go to the VA Medical Center, and now you are going to obviously go through a program director at the VA Medical Center to request HUD-VASH. Then you're going to be issued a case manager. Once you are issued a case manager, you will go through a series of interviews to make sure that you are, in a position where housing stability is an issue. Now, they have so many different organizations, U.S. Vets, just a ton of organizations, right, that is going to be able to provide vouchers and put you in a position to take position and have your mortgage your rent paid because of it. So going through this program is going to create stability in your life and also access to a stable life. So now with that application process, I want you to know for any veteran who is at risk of homelessness and is on that threshold, I want you to begin the process sooner than later if you can. Okay. And if you have any trouble, please give us a call. We would love to serve you. Now, going through this process, there is an income limit or income requirement. Now, though it is an income limit and income requirement, they can point you in other directions to programs that are going to be able to provide you the temporary support. But for HUD-VASH particularly, the vouchers will need to be issued by a case manager from the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA Medical Center, which can be arranged, or the local organization that has become a case management organization. Okay. So with that being said, I want you to understand that with this income limit, it's going to be based on the metrics we will get into a little bit. We'll get into a little bit more here. All right, veterans. So when we, go down this pathway, I want you guys to understand that the case management role is a role that can be distributed to the veteran and investor and also business owner or local organization director as well. So this is, they call it something called a DSP. A DSP is a designated service provider. Okay, this designated service provider you can qualify for based upon going through your public housing authority, okay, and also agencies. But now, when you are becoming a DSP, okay, we talked about the Department of Veterans Affairs managing the case management for veterans who are at risk of homelessness, where they'll be able to provide social services, medical needs, housing, and vouchers for housing, and so on. Well, as a local organization, and you have applied for that and you qualify, now you have become a DSP. Now you have been authorized to be able to offer temporary case management services. That's going to be involved in taking intake, right? And what is intake? Local information, right? Basic information. I'm also providing the services of, again, the application process and the housing voucher distribution. So as a veteran, you're talking about serving the veteran communities, and now you have become a designated partner with the Department of Veterans Affairs, where you can issue vouchers based upon your local organization, program, or even nonprofit service. So please, if you're in this course, you are stating that you are trying to not only better yourself with the information, but also uplift the veteran community. And this is one way, by you owning a home and renting out properties based upon the veteran's need. And now providing a service, if you provide services, now you can be able to provide case management service to the veteran community, homeless veteran community, where they can be able to live under your home as well. But again, there's a series of documents that you have to fill out, qualifications, and also checks that you must go through. So it is a qualified metric. So at the end of the day, HUD-VASH provides these services and also housing vouchers for the veteran. But on the flip side of things, for the landlord and investor, you want to also make sure that you are meeting the requirements to provide the services for the community as well. Okay, just because it's available to you does not mean that that we're not going to get to just breeze through it. No, that you must meet the qualified metrics on the other end as well. But I'll tell you this, as the landlord that's being provided, that you are providing housing for that at risk of homelessness veteran or homeless veteran, well, you can go ahead and make sure that you understand that you're going to be able to receive that voucher of rent to pay mortgage every single month. We can be very confident about we're going to get that voucher every month, to include also the stability. So on average, the typical homeless veteran or at-risk homeless veteran stays under the HUD-VASH program for 8 years. So now as a landlord, you then now have a veteran that is housed for an extended, elongated period of time. And well, what are the actual limits or the payment standards that you are able to receive? So with, as of effect January 1st, 2024, if you are renting a unit, it is based upon the number of bedrooms. So the home must have a certain number of bedrooms to be able to receive or qualify for the amount. Okay. So with that, so for a 1-bedroom, you're able to receive $1,514 every single month, and that's for a 1-bedroom property. So a 1-bedroom property. 2-bedroom, $1,807. 3-bedroom, $2,546. 4-bedroom, $3,000. 5-bedroom, $3,454. So 6-bedroom, $3,905, and a 7-bedroom, $4,354. Okay, so with that being said, I want you guys to understand that it is based upon bedroom size, but now the locality and also the mortgage payment, and also if again you want to house an entire home, it's going to be based upon the payment amount. Okay, so all in all, that's why we need to go utilize the VA home loan at a very high level. So now you can be able to become a landlord to be able to support your community, your direct community that affects your day-to-day life. So I hope that you learn something in regards to HUD-VASH as a landlord. Okay, but now on the other flip side of things, as at the risk homeless veteran, those are the vouchers that you're able to receive to be able to receive housing. So now you receive a $1,500 voucher for a 1-bedroom for your own place that is stable to live. So now, please, veterans, pass that information down, because if we do not pass the information down, we are doing ourselves and also our community a disservice. So with that HUD-VASH, again, those participants must meet, again, a lot of times participants of that must meet the income requirements, which we spoke about, but the typical income requirements are below poverty level. What is below poverty level? It is going to be based upon your annual income and also dependents that are rendered with you as well. That will determine eligibility. Eligibility is then determined by the public housing authority in your local area. So make sure, as the at-risk veteran, that you meet those eligibility requirements. And also, as the landlord, that your home meets the requirements to be able to receive government income. So as a landlord, what are some of the benefits? What are some of the benefits that's based upon that? We already talked about guaranteed income, right? So on a monthly basis, you don't have to deal with tenants that may or may not come with income, but this is guaranteed income on a monthly basis, right? Also, understanding security deposits. Obviously, a landlord is able to set their own security deposits based upon the local area. But a lot of times when we're talking about HUD-VASH, they will go based upon the security deposit and also the monthly rents, right? Though you have an already set amount. But when we're talking about security deposits, that is a little bit different because now that can be adjusted based upon the landlord's requirements. But they were based upon the local area. So please, I wouldn't suggest, inflating that, right? Also property maintenance. Now there's annual property inspections of this that you as a landlord do not are required to do. Now the government is actually going to be able to provide that annual local inspection, that annual property inspection. So, and again, it's because they want to make sure they're reducing the maintenance costs along the way. And as the landlord, you are really appreciative of this. Okay, because as we spoke about in the VA home loan entitlement, that you need to get a home inspection prior to, okay, to purchase that home. But now who does the annual maintenance and annual checks? The government does, to make sure that tenant is not destroying your property. Well, if you want to continue to have that voucher, if they want to continue to be able to live in a stable environment, that is something that they are required to do. Also, now you are also able to leverage some of the support of the VA, right? To be able to the supportive needs of the of services such as the mental capacity of things, right? Mental health, the social services, right? So now, again, as a landlord, there you have access to different VA services that most wouldn't, okay? Because you are now a landlord that's housing a homeless veteran, so they need to take care of you as well, okay? But that is again subjective based upon every VA and also program director. So please, again, I don't want to dive too far deep into that. I would always check with the local VA to see again how you can be of service to that or assistance that you can receive. Now, with that said as well, now with these tenants, now we understand that there's an annual inspection, but that's in a long-term maintenance peer review. But now we also want to talk about the supportive services that are going to make sure that the veteran is well taken care of as well. So now you understand that the tenant is receiving the support that they need, and there is a buffer or a safety net between the tenant and the landlord. So we don't have any issues that would arise if it is a landlord-based tenant. Okay, a lot of times miscommunication could happen with landlords and tenants. Oh, I was going to pay the rent on the 13th when you said the 15th. Oh, I didn't know I had to pay this rent this month. Those things happen all the time. So, but that's something that you won't have to deal with. Also, understand you are a key contributor to the community that you have come from now. You are a key contributor to the community that you have come from, and this is why you're in the position that you are. So now you're even giving back to the community that has bred your foundational structure. So now you're being honored as well. as a community leader. So with that, in conclusion, I want you guys to understand that this HUD-VASH program is a phenomenal program that is going to make sure that our stability of our veterans housing is going to eventually put you in a position of success. So on the landlord side of things, I want you to understand it is creating stability within the community. It is creating stability within yourself. It is also providing social services that one may have never thought they can have. And also, you are then being a community leader and giving back, so your voice is a little bit louder than someone who is not doing the work. All in all, there's grants for veterans with disabilities and now further housing needs for adaptations. And there's also a program such as HUD-VASH to provide stable and permanent housing for veterans or who are at risk of homelessness or are dealing with homelessness. So the financial support, the mental support, and also the support of the community is all in one place if we, again, apply this program to our community. So let's transition homelessness to stable community permanent housing. So with that being said, let's continue to educate, let's continue to support, and let's continue to provide value. With that, veterans, see you in the next topic.